we need to deal with. And in that LA episode, we didn't have much to protect. And what we did have to protect, we wrecked. So this is how you do it.
Right.
So why am I mad at them?
Well, all right. I press record. Welcome, guys, to the ManUp Show. Me and Judge Joe Brown. So this is another pre-record show. I'm gonna say this for the month of January, so everybody could get used to us pre-recording. It's better. It floats with your schedule because you do a lot of campaigning, especially at night. You're going to a town hall meeting, event to campaign. So it's better for us to just pre-record in a day and premiere it at night. And I like it, and you like it. So welcome everybody. Um, it's just you be looking like, okay, let's get on with it. How are you?
I'll manage at least in a mad rush. And even when it's a slow day, I'll do it okay.
Well, I don't want to talk about the person who you connected me to that I'm going to have the chance to interview because that's very big and it's going to be a good surprise and it's going to be a great interview. But I'm very excited about that. So I just want to say thank you for the introduction and the networking with this person. But you guys will get to see and hear who I'm talking about very soon. However, before we get into the show.
By the way, that thing that I was referencing came from that lady you met when we were all downstairs in the lounge in New Jersey, I think it was.
What came from who in New Jersey?
Remember the thing about the upset with the Koreans doing that thing we spoke of before we started recording? I got a text from that person.
Oh, you gave your number out to one of the ladies?
No. Remember the lady that met up with us when we were discussing?
Oh, yes. I remember the one we had dinner with.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's put that aside for a second. And first of all, let's start off with this. www.jjb2023.com. Guys, go sign up to the mailing list and, of course, donate to Judge Joe Brown Cash App for his mayor campaign, right? $ Judge Joe Brown 2023. He's running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee.
Doesn't that rhyme?
Yes, it does. We always like a good rhyme.
I've got some rap artists offering to help out.
I also have another person that reached out. We'll talk about that after the show.
The thing where I was going to mention to you with the rap artist is help is appreciated, but he's got to come with the understanding that I'm trying to do some reform. I'm not trying to do it your way, young guy. Need to do it my way so you don't function as an engine of destruction, but you redeem yourself and start coming at the people as a messenger for change. In other words, we were this way, now we want to move the right way.
Right, exactly. Before we get into the first topic, and speaking of rap, I think I'm gonna lead with that, the YSL situation. Guys, please share this video, hit the like button, donate Cash App or Super Chat, but like, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, YSL trial. Should rap lyrics be used in a criminal case? So let me just pull this up. I thought I had it up already. Oh, yes, I do. And actually, let me share it. Share. Where is it? Okay. Rapper Young Thug's RICO trial begins. So it began this week because last week was jury selection. And this is rapper Young Thug. He is accused of helping found a violent street game. His name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams, right? So let me just give you, Judge, a quick recap of this case. So, Jeffrey Lamar Williams, professionally known as Young Thug, is set to go to trial on Monday, this past Monday. The 31-year-old Atlanta rapper, along with fellow rapper Sergio Kitchens, known professionally as Gunna, and dozens of others, stand accused of helping found a violent street gang known as Young Slim Life, or YSL. In May, authorities arrested and charged Williams with conspiracy to violate Georgia's RICO Act and participating in a criminal street gang. The 88-page indictment filed in Fulton County, Georgia, includes references to lyrics found in Williams' music. The indictment also indicates a list of 181 acts dating back to 2013. The high profile arrest of Williams, who now is facing 8 separate charges, is part of a growing trend of criminalizing hip hop artists under RICO Acts, a measure intended to stop organized crime like the mafia. Under these laws, the authorities are able to accuse multiple people in someone's circle, from a rapper to their entourage and other members of their crew, of gang related activity if at least one person is connected to a criminal activity. The trial also calls into question the use of lyrics in the charging musicians with a crime. Now, there was a Georgia representative who introduced a bill in the state of Georgia to protect artists from having their lyrics used against them. So I want to ask you this, Judge.
Here's what we're getting into. I think a lot of lawyers and judges and jurists these days and legislative bodies are just rankly incompetent, and they're a product of the new type of higher education where somebody does not get subjected to the rigor that used to be imposed in higher order academia because someone doesn't want to upset some youth's dreams about what they want to do. And there is a lack of something called common sense. Now, part of this process that I'm looking at in terms of lack of common sense is instead of looking at direct causality, we like to scapegoat. It's a character issue that is causing the problems today,
Mhm.
not so much the language expressions, but character. And it's not taking place in the homes, it's not taking place in the schools, it certainly isn't taking place in the government because on that level the corruption is just as bad as it is down in the streets, except perhaps not as violent unless you consider such thing as Afghanistan, Iraq, and Mogadishu, and Somalia, and Ukraine, when it gets really, really, really violent.
Mhm.
But I don't get how people, well, I do get, but it's this thing about suppression of the First Amendment. You can see it, what they're doing with Trump and MAGA. You can see what the Democratic Party is trying to do to suppress free speech. You can see what Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, they're all doing, trying to tamp down with what used to be considered free speech.
Mm.
Nobody would object to such commentary. And now it may hurt somebody's feelings, so expression, free speech, is restricted because of somebody's weak feelings.
Right.
And it's unlike the older type thing where the envelope's supposed to be pushed, where let's say Now you can have in prime time what used to be considered light pornography. All right. There are no standards when it comes to nudity. You get LGBTQ types on a float with it all hanging out and kids tugging on it, and that's supposed to be okay. You get recruitment in schools, that's supposed to be pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember where saying MF in public would get you arrested, and I was grown when that was going on. Now, I've seen a change, but instead of pushing the envelope, in this case, it's restricting. What used to be acceptable free speech and commentary, not porn, sleaze, or anything that would be obscene, just rank commentary, is instead of being expanded, it's being restricted. So, why is the sleaze element being opened up and the commentary being restricted? That is part of the ancient agenda of totalitarianism. In other words, you destroy the moral and social fabric, and then you prevent the development of ethical, rational, and reasonable response to policy. And that's what we're looking at.
Right.
That's part of this thing here. I don't like what I listened to some of that. I don't like what's being portrayed. I think it's sick. But
Portrayed by the rappers or what
the
the
rapper, but I think what is being done in response is even sicker.
right. Because if they were the cause of 50 or 60% of the crime that was going on in that Fulton County or Atlanta area, where you locked up him and his organization, did the crime go down? And then where is that evidence outside of the lyrics?
Well, and the other thing, scapegoating here too, because the problem that's really causing this mess is this promotion of I don't need a man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a man. I don't want to be a man. And all of that kind of stuff to destroy masculinity. That's where the problem comes from. And all this is a scapegoating process to try and get away from the clear, obvious, and logical extrapolations that somebody might say, look at all of this breakdown in social order and what accompanied it is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Liquid crystal diode screen, look at it.
Right.
Oh, well, it's not that. It's these people that we produced because of what we did, where they grew up with no daddy around in the neighborhood or the hood or in the home, or not on TV or not in the movies. Oh, that has nothing to do with it. It's all about somebody expressing what's going on. It's got nothing to do with the fact that for 50 years we haven't offered any leadership, just advocacy for degeneracy. Okay, forget all that stuff.
I want to bring this up as well, referring to the YSL case. So, um, jury selection, right? They went through the process of jury selection, which the judge was reading lyrics to the jurors, which was unheard of. But so one of the jurors, right, a potential investigated for trying to contact. Oh no, this wasn't it. This wasn't it. One of the Jesus, I thought I had this. Oh, this one. Yeah. So a woman, right, is ordered to write a 30-page essay after failing to show up for jury duty in a Young Thug trial. Fulton County judge has punished a woman who didn't return for jury duty in a Young Thug trial because she was on a trip in Dominican Republic. So this is what happened. She said early deputies told the judge, Ruler Glanville, the juror who was supposed to report to jury selection on Monday. He told deputies to take her into custody as soon as she returned. This juror told Glansville that she contacted the court about her trip and sent them her itinerary. Ganville originally said he would hold the woman in contempt of court. Instead, he came up with a different punishment on Thursday. He ordered this juror to write a 30-page essay with 20 sources on the importance of serving on jury. She has 3 weeks to write it and present it to the judge on February 13th. The judge gave her specifics for the style and sources needed and said he would check the essay for any signs of plagiarism. But she told them she was going to be out of town and gave.
So what? That doesn't make any difference. That's like saying, look, I've got 4 more college credits to go before my degree. I can't report to the draft board. I'm sorry. I was getting some nookie the other night, so I didn't ship out with my unit when they got sent over to the NOM. I'm sorry.
What if this was prepaid? She already paid for the trip.
I don't care. It doesn't make any difference.
It does.
No, it doesn't. You prepaid for the college education, but 1967, you got a draft notice. You are working hard trying to set up a family. It's 1943, you got a draft notice. It's 1950 in November, and you are set out on a new career, and you got a draft notice. See, it's the same thing, because what happens is that you are you see, some people die to get these rights. And then there's the thing about the exercise of the rights. A public and speedy trial before a jury does not happen without jurors. You don't have a setup where you can have these things without an adequate military. So they're all intertwined. Now, I used to do such things. In fact, I got some advance notice. It's funny you brought that up. Somebody called me to say that this jurisdiction, they used to be fans of mine, not from the TV show, but from what I used to do for alternative sentencing. That sounds exactly like something I would do. Rather than locking them up for 10 days for contempt, let's find out what this is about. And what she will discover if she does the assignment is exactly what I told you and how it developed there. In other words, you are comfy in your day-to-day existence, but it doesn't come cheap. See, right now we've had,
I mean, I get it. It is a responsibility. Bubble. It's a responsibility.
What's bad about right now? I don't want to give a history lesson, so I won't, but I'll make this observation. When my grandfather, maternal grandfather, was born, it was before the Civil War. He wasn't a slave because his father was free. When my paternal grandfather was born, there was a hell of a frontier going on, and you could be slaughtered because the Cheyenne got upset with you, or you could be on the same side as my maternal grandmother and great grandmother. They were Native Americans. You could be slaughtered because some blue coat got upset with you. So there was reality. They died off in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And what happens is that we are living in a vacuum, a bubble of safety, where there are no people, no significant numbers of people with a living memory of the danger. And the people that fought in Korea knew it. The people that fought in the Nam damn sure knew it. The people in World War II really, really knew it. There were people in World War I, people that dealt with the frontier. and before that, the Civil War. There's never been such an insulated period of safety in this country's history, nor world history, where you've got two generations of people who have lived in relative safety. They don't have to worry about a highwayman robbing them on the roadway. They don't have to worry about bandits. This is in just certain parts of the world. They don't have to worry about the Luftwaffe or the Japanese Imperial Navy coming over and bombing, or the RAF or the USAAF or the U.S. Navy coming in and flattening something completely. They don't have to worry about that for the most part. They've had a threat, but that threat's been down for 30 years. So I'm talking about when the Iron Curtain fell back in 1990. So all of these people have been safe, and they don't get it because they've never had to experience it. And it's interesting. I wrote a paper.
Okay, I thought you wasn't going into the history.
No, I mean, but it brings us forward to the present, and it's got to do with this prosecution and some other things. I wrote a paper, and I got the idea from Comrade Lenin, a Russian professor I had back in the 60s. I was teaching assistant to, gave me a paper that Lenin wrote. It was a translation. He said, Russia will become a democracy when it becomes able to be confident in its ability to manage its own affairs, comfortable in its military might, comfortable in its industrial capability, comfortable and used to its ability to manage its own affairs. And this was the big one, there are no significant numbers of Russians with a living memory of their enslavement under the czars. What I did is I wrote this paper that dealt with the nascent feminist movement. And I said, this is to be expected, because there are no significant numbers of American women alive with a living memory of why we had these sexual dichotomies. And that was 55 years ago, literally. So it is 56 years ago, 1967. So it is expanded till today, where there are so many people with no living or personal memory of what it used to be like, that they don't get it. And that's why he did this. He did her a favor.
I see what you're saying, to educate her.
Yeah, to educate her, and then he will probably publish the paper.
House Republicans vote to strip IRS funding following pledge to repeal nearly $80 billion approved by Congress. So House Republicans on Monday night voted to slash funding for the IRS following a pledge to repeal nearly $80 billion approved by Congress last year.
I agree.
However, the measure doesn't have the support to pass the Democratic-controlled Senate, and the White House has already opposed the bill. Republicans Monday night voted to slash funding for the IRS. It was also said that
now this is good governance, because what IRS is doing, and I run into it, they grab the money. And you got to pay attorney fees, accountant fees, and everything else to get it back. So it's out of your pocket. And then they say, you owe us nothing, but they've kept it for 6, 7, 8, 9 months and earned interest on it. And you not only did not earn interest on your own money, you wound up having to, pay a few thousand out of your pocket to go defend against the frivolous claim that they knew was frivolous. They just need the money. California's doing that same thing too. Get rid of them. There is no reason why you need these 80-some thousand extra agents, except you're trying to desperately find funding for your social programs. And two, the other point is back to our original thing about First Amendment. This bunch is being set up as a national secret police service. And I say that because out of all of the agencies in the United States, the one with the most comprehensive information net is not COINTELPRO, Associated, stuff like that, CIA. It's IRS. They've got something on everybody, and they have a whole lot. And what this deal is another one of these little scams where, like this RICO thing with the rap artists, it is to be able to control the message that is put out. And that's what's scary about this.
How
And
do you feel about the House Republicans to vote on a bill to abolish the IRS?
well, they're not going to abolish the IRS.
Well,
This is, I don't think that's what this bill's about. It's about the need for these 80s.
Well, it says that the House
armed
Republicans are
agents.
set to vote on a bill that would abolish the Internal Revenue Service and introduce a national consumption tax to replacing the existing
Well, that
federal income tax scheme. Let me finish reading. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy agreed to put the Fair Tax Act on the floor as one of the number of concessions he made to House Freedom Caucus members last week in a bid to
I don't have a problem with that being out there. It needs to be discussed. It's a tax reform. You've got an amendment to the Constitution that allows income tax, okay, federal income tax.
Mhm.
But Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives the taxing power to the House. See, technically, all revenue raising schemes have to come out of the House and then go to the Senate. Senate is, and I don't even know if it would be totally blocked in the Senate because the Democratic majority kind of evaporated when the Arizona Senate.
Well, it says here that the Fair Tax Act seeks to upend the Inflation Reduction Act passed by the Democrats during last year's Congress. A funding package within the latter will pave the way for hiring tens and thousands of. So the Fair Tax Act upends the Inflation Reduction Act because under the Inflation Reduction Act, they wanted to hire their 85,000 IRS employees.
Yeah. Now, here is the thing. You are familiar with the terminology that a sales tax is a regressive tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can explain, if I go into Kroger with my income and I go buy what I buy and I pay the state sales tax, or in this case, it would be the federal tax, value tax, it's not going to be that great a percentage of my total financial wherewithal because I can only eat so much, even if it's high quality. All right. I can only put so much gas in my car and pay the tax on that. So it's going to be a tax that is regressive because it will most severely impact those who can pay the tax, who can least afford to pay the tax. It'll affect the people at the bottom of the economic scale worse. Now, the whole tax scheme that they had in place was to incentivize certain things. In other words, if you came up with an idea and put it together in a business that hired 12,863 people, you were given tax breaks. If you didn't do anything with the money except sit on it, you didn't get a tax break. Now that has become bastardized and it's all off this, that, and the other places, and everybody's trying to come up with some slimy little something so their particular group doesn't have to pay the taxes without any incentive for that group to do something for the public. Now,
Mhm.
the Republicans and the Democrats do that sin. One of the worst the Republicans ever did was wiping out long-term capital gains tax schemes. In other words, if you had a share of stock and you kept it for 6 months and sold it or traded, you were only taxed on one half of your gain. Now they wiped that out under the Reagan administration. So if you hold it 3 seconds, you don't get penalized like you used to. So instead of investing in long-term success, instead of investing in novel startup companies that will generate future jobs, income, and stability for the system, you're encouraged to use computerization and algorithms to go deal with volatility to make quick money. So in other words, you don't care whether we'll be here 2 years from now. You just want it to go up and down fast. And with your mathematical algorithms, you can project this one is likely on what we've seen over the last 3 days. For the next two, if we buy, sell, trade in an enormous amount, we can raise the price of the stock and then sell it off at the high price, bam, dump it, and it'll be worthless. We don't care, but that's the volatility we want. So Wall Street, instead of becoming an investment agency, has become a gambling casino primarily. Always was, sort of, but now that's what's going on. And this regressive tax here that they're talking about,
The Fair Tax Act.
fair tax
The
act, I
Republicans.
don't particularly like that. What I think,
Wait, what the Republicans are doing?
yeah, what this conservative bunch of Republicans is doing, because they just haven't thought it through. What they need is reform on what's going on. Somebody needs to do an analysis of just who gets what and what the calculus is in terms of the benefit to the citizenry. See, nobody does that anymore. And one of the things that I think needs to happen is perhaps a constitutional amendment, or perhaps some legislation that says any bill, the caption, thank you, the caption of any bill has to reflect the body of the bill. A lot of states are going to that now, so you can't just throw something in. For example, if it says trash reduction act for the state of Wisconsin, let's say, excuse me, you can't throw prison reform in there at the tail end. But you've got these bills that get passed with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900 pages. That'll be 400 or 500 pages in a law book the next year. United States codes annotated, code section so and so and so, subsection such and such. And people don't read it. So you get all of this garbage that gets passed, and nobody's keeping track of where it leads or what the big impact is. And I think rationalizing what you're doing in the tax realm in terms of where the money goes, what the benefit is, and why it should be done would be a great thing, rather than trying to come up with a quick fix.
Right. Let me read this as well, because this is part of what the Republicans are trying to pass in the legislation. It says, with this first economic legislation of the new Congress, House Republicans are making clear that their top economic priority is to allow the rich and multi-billionaire dollar corporations to skip out on their taxes, while making life harder for ordinary middle class families that pay the taxes they owe, the federal agency asserted. So this is the federal agency saying that that's the Republicans' Fair Tax Act.
And you know what's wrong with that?
And that's not true, because what you're doing now.
You know what's wrong with that?
What?
Hatch Act. Somebody working for that agency has absolutely no damn business pontificating like that. They're supposed to be neutral and take no side. That is taking a political side. That's
Federal
bad.
agencies, yeah. So they
If
shouldn't
that
even be
that
making a statement on
so
it.
rotten.
Let me read this part. So it says
Yeah.
fellow bill co-sponsor South Carolina Republican Representative Jeff Duncan highlighted the IRS continued strain on everyday Americans. He said, as a former small business owner, I understand the unnecessary burden of failing income tax system has on Americans. The Fair Tax Act eliminates the tax code, replaces the income tax with a sales tax, and abolishes the abusive IRS. If enacted, this will invigorate the American taxpayer and help more Americans achieve the American dream.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Well, of course they gotta romanticize it.
That's complete, and it's naive bullshit on top of it. For example, it takes a certain amount of money to operate things.
Yeah.
Hell, how did Jesus get born in
But you still have the state tax. This is just
but how
federal.
does Jesus get born in Bethlehem of all places? Why? Because the king at the time, Herod, was conducting a census so he could more adroitly apply his tax schemes. Death and taxes, they never go away. So what do you have? You have the Phoenicians, you have the Romans, you have the Greeks, you have Babylonians, Sumerians, Egyptians, Hittites, Meronians. You have everybody dealing with taxation. So it's not going away. And you can't operate without it, because basically what you have is a collective. It's just not a bunch of singular folk living in small caves anymore.
I don't think this, and that's just a headline in the media. It's not, federal taxes are not going anywhere. However, what they're just trying to counter the Biden administration and the Democratic Congress, because if we all remember, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, they wanted to start taxing if you receive over $600 in Cash App or Zelle every month. And I'm like, listen, that is definitely targeting and hurting everyday average Americans, because people,
here,
one second. People who, with inflation high, groceries high, people are cash apping relatives to help them out. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
What everyday stuff. So, and for me doing this, people donate via Cash App or whatever. So why are you taxing that? And this
because that's not really the fundamental reason for that. The reason is, as I said earlier, IRS has become the information collection service for the United States. It is an excellent cover for a secret police, secret service, big brother not looking over your shoulder, sitting on your damn shoulder. That's what the problem is. Just think of all of the data
that they're collecting, which is true.
That they collected. And then the other thing is, 10 years ago, they couldn't collect it because they didn't have the technology. Now they do.
Right.
So in other words, you are taking advantage of.
Which is why the Republicans are doing this Fair Tax Act to counter and eliminate the BS at the Biden administration.
It's talking point, but as a reality, it's retrogressive in the extreme, and it's stupid. But bottom line is this: somebody needs to do some work, and the people who head these committees that deal with it need to, in fact, have the expertise commensurate with the position that they hold as a matter of public trust. A lot of them don't anymore. And by the way, that's another thing too that goes to the issue of term limits. Well, term limit. Well, if you're going to have term limits, how many terms? 3, 4 terms, 8 years? 8 years is not long enough to develop the expertise to make such an analysis and act in a learned fashion when it comes to coming up with tax
let's
schemes
right.
and programs.
Well,
And that,
let's shelve that for next show because I want to move
yeah,
on.
but
We're running out
it's
of
a
time.
big can
Also,
of worms that isn't simply solved. We need a whole examination of everything that's in these tax codes, and a rationalization needs to be made so they are effective and they accomplish their purposes so the taxation becomes fair.
all right.
And to get away from the sloganeering bit that the
All
Democrats
right.
are doing and the Republicans are doing.
All
And by
right.
the way, when
Listen,
they talk
listen. You know
about
what I
high
started doing?
finance, let's talk about the garbage.
Not right now,
No,
because
no, no. I'm talking about the same subject.
I
Let's
know, but we
talk
got to move
about.
on to another subject. We run out of
I
time.
know, but I just wanted to throw this one to where Goldman Sachs. The Democratic Party is owned by the chief financing entity in America, Goldman Sachs. They are owned. And a lot of the Republican Party is owned. Cruz's wife.
Yes, we know that. I want to move on. I want to move on. I got to move on. I got to
Oh,
move on.
Biden.
I put a timer.
Obama.
I put a
All
timer.
of
I put a timer here because
Okay,
when the
let's move
timer go
on.
off, that means we got to move on to the next topic. Because I'm not
Okay,
trying to
go
be
ahead,
up here
boss.
2 hours. I
Boss
really want to
lady.
keep this
Boss lady.
under
Keep going.
an
Go on,
hour and a
go on,
half.
go on, go on, go on, go, go.
Biden
Go
classified
on, lady.
documents, right? Let me just share this.
Yeah.
More classified documents found in Biden's Delaware garage, White House reveals. So, of course, they made this big thing with headlines with Donald Trump having classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Oh my God, we gotta bring him in front of a committee, file whatever through the courts. He can't run again for president, impeachment, all this other mess, right? But then come to find out that your current president has classified documents.
Now, here's the thing. Trump is a rich man. Biden's effectively urban trailer park trash, and he's a broke guy who has gotten well off at the public trough. His garage is not likely to be as well secured as Trump's home, the basement of his Mar-a-Lago home, to be specific. Now, as far as declassification, it's been held, and I think the case is Egan. It's about 20 some years, or maybe 30 some years old, 1987, I think. And it basically says the President of the United States, as chief diplomat and commander in chief of the military, can declassify anything he wants in any fashion he chooses to declassify. However, this is not a matter like Mar-a-Lago. This is just negligence by putting them in a fashion where, oh my God, didn't realize they were there. So here is the other thing. Where do these classified documents come from and when? Does it come from his situation as vice president? Well, in that case,
so
he didn't have the authority to declassify them. As vice president, Obama did, and he's not Obama. And Obama hopefully didn't delegate the authority to him. Now, getting away from that, we talked about Trump did what? Did he walk out of the place as president with this and declassify in any fashion? But then did he declassify? Because if he's a smart man, he might memorize all of them. Some people have photographic memory. So how are you going to get it out of his head? Is he going to sell what is in his head to a Russian spy or a Chinese spy? Well, Biden and his son seem to have met with the Chinese, and here are the files that he took when he was a vice president. So, wow,
it says,
say about Trump is fourfold worse with Biden.
So it
Whoa.
says the White House counsel office searched Biden's 2 residences in Rehoboth Beach and Wilmington, Delaware this week after revelations about a collection of Obama-era classified documents at a think tank in Washington. Biden is facing growing scrutiny for his handling of classified documents, and the White House says it is fully cooperating with the Justice Department investigation. Lawyers discovered among personal and political papers a small number of additional Obama-Biden administration records with classified markings. All but one of these documents were found in a storage space in the president's Wilmington residence garage, the White House lawyers wrote in a Thursday statement. One document consisting of one page was discovered among stored materials in an adjacent room. The White House has no documents. The White House says no documents were found at Biden's residence in Rehoboth Beach. Biden's administration has also arranged to deliver the documents over to the DOJ custody. So,
a question that presents itself. This person has been paid by the public since he was in his mid-20s. His family's not rich. How did he get the money?
Who? Biden to do what?
Yeah. Look at his residence he's living in and say, can you afford that on a civil service job?
Well, when he was in the Senate, Biden, they were allowed to do inside trading. That's where all of them.
No, but that's illegal. You can't do that.
No, not anymore. But
no, I mean you couldn't do it then either.
Yes,
not saying that people didn't get away with it, but
I thought
you know, and the
if
other
you were in Congress, you were allowed to do inside trading.
Other point is essentially there is this: if you are getting a paycheck as a U.S. senator, as a U.S. congressman, as a state legislator, the best you can hope to be off of your salary, even the salary you get as vice president of the United States, is upper middle class. Now, how do you afford what is upper class properties on a middle class income? You see, that goes in. And you know how I can say something about that? I was at one of the judges. Well, I was the judge for that thing that was done on the Hunter Biden laptops. There were 3 of them, not 2, not 1, 3. And what we saw is indicative of how he got those things. And that not only is subject matter for Article 2, Section 4 impeachment proceedings, that is matter for RICO and criminal prosecution for real.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
Crook.
I want to move on quickly. A couple more things real quick. Listen, I don't know if you heard about this, but I'm just, this is something quick that I'm totally not agreeing with. Gas stove fight is more elite culture war nonsense, right? So you couldn't imagine a more picture perfect anti-science, dishonest, elitist signal than talk of banning gas stoves. Yet it's not just Team Biden. It looks like Governor Kathy Hochul of New York is seeking to pass a ban of her own this year. So on the federal level, the supposed reason the Commission Product Safety Commission is looking to outlaw stoves now used in more than 40% of the U.S. homes is claimed that they cause asthma in children. Bullshit, because it does not. Except they don't. The science is clear on this. There is no evidence of association between the use of gas as a cooking fuel and either asthma symptoms or asthma diagnosis. This is more than a multi-year study tracking more than 500,000 kids around the world, right? So why do they want to ban gas?
Yes.
I love a gas. That's all I like to use is gas. The electric.
I got you, but if you want an interesting thing, there's a thing called followthemoney.org. Mm-hmm. See if they have reports in your state and see who's been paying who.
That's a real thing?
Yeah, followthemoney.org. Yes, it is. And go down the left column major contributors, amounts contributed.
And nothing ain't come up. It's saying bad requests.
Well, I'm looking at it right here.
What is the actual website?
That's it.
Followthemoney.org. Okay, here we go. Oh, then that would come up.
Yeah.
Political watch. Ooh.
Yeah. Go there, and you see people have to report to the state and federal election commissions what they receive. So just take a look at who's getting what, and a lot of this comes clear. See, if they get rid of these stoves or they cut off the gas thing, don't forget what else in a lot of people's homes depends upon gas.
Mm-hmm.
Hot water heaters.
Right.
The furnace in the floor in a lot of northern and eastern coast homes and in west coast homes. Your central heating. So all of these products would have to be replaced. That's quite a bit of money to be made by somebody.
Damn, they break all this down. Yeah.
Yeah, don't they?
Oh.
Don't they? See, I always, whenever somebody says something, I go and look this up to see what they've been getting. If somebody is brand new, they don't have much of a track record. But some of these people, look at the sums that they're getting in total. Might be 3, 5, 8, 15 years. Some of these people have gotten millions of dollars over the years from certain interests.
It says that yet the ban makes no sense from a science-based green perspective, since the electric stoves that will replace gas ones will be overwhelmingly powered by fossil fuels anyway, including gas, coal, oil.
Yeah, unless you do it the Joe Brown way, which is take these major rivers and take some slightly altered hydroelectric generators designed for tidal flows and convert them to just one way rather than bi-directional flows, so you can use these major rivers like the Mississippi, Columbia, Colorado, that it seems to be drying up because of lack of snowpack and a few other things like that, and you might come up with an alternative, but they haven't gone there yet because there's too much money to be made in petroleum.
It says heating or cooking. These bans are only green in sentiment, not science, not to mention the huge social injustice. Adding a bogus health excuse only adds to the profound deception, which is true. So, because then if you change to electric, you got to use special pots. The food is cooked differently. I don't like electric. So yeah, it's just BS. All right. So before we get into basically the last two
And
topics.
by the way, that's that calculus again. Who's getting what and what's the benefit to the taxpayers, the general citizenry, and does it work?
Mhm.
And you have such ignorance in the legislative bodies right now. There are few people who have been exposed to those things that would give them even a glimmer of the expertise needed to make such assessments.
All right, I want to move on to Odell Beckham. I guess I spelled his name right. Yeah. So I think it was like a month ago, he was asked to leave to he was removed from an airline plane. He was in the first class. He was asked to remove, and it was just footage showing him leaving out the tunnel. But now police released body cam footage of Odell Beckham's angry removal from the plane. So we don't need to spend much time on this, but the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because I'm just so tired of these pampered celebrities, and I want to play the clip of what took place, because he was totally in the wrong and totally disrespectful, right?
Hello, it's a football player, and it seems like either drunk too much or doing something that is not responsible.
Okay, rescue's here, no?
No, but he's not responsible.
But the rescue's here?
Yeah, rescue. Sir, are you able to get up? Can you get up? please? You okay?
Yeah.
What's wrong? The airline's called for you, sir. I don't know what it is. You good?
How you doing, bud? Not that you've been unresponsive, but they're trying to get you to come and specifically approach me.
He's probably on a deep sleep. You know where you're at, sir?
Anything?
He's probably tired. Okay. He looks good to me. Careful.
No shit. You know how many times you've shaken him to put his seatbelt on and he
might.
If you don't want him to fly, that's a decision that you guys are going to have to make. That's, you know, you tell the captain, and then we'll get him out. But that's something that you guys got to make.
Multiple times, multiple people. Hey, sir, put your seatbelt on. All we're getting is this.
This is a 5-hour flight.
Yeah, this is 5 hours.
Then that's up to you guys.
Yeah,
That's up to you guys. But medically, if he doesn't want us to check him out, I can't. And I don't really say anything wrong. He might be tired or have taken a long trip and doesn't want to follow orders. That's a whole other animal.
He told her he just came from a club.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. He's tired.
And he's taking stuff. Like this and he's not even responding to put on the seatbelt.
He just responded to know where he's at. He knows where he's at, exactly where he's
And
flying.
he had pants on when he came on. He doesn't have pants on now.
His pants are on now.
His pants are on.
Well, he had shorts on. Underwear.
Yeah.
Okay.
How you doing, man?
Can I speak to you for a second? Yeah, listen.
393830.
How you doing, bud? Rene Garcia, Sergeant with Miami-Dade Police Department. Nice to meet you. Listen, unfortunately, it's not our decision. Just don't listen, apparently you were passed out. They had to wake you up. They had to come back.
I've taken off. Many times before the plane is taken off, I've fallen asleep. Woke up in the middle of the flight. 13-hour flight. Woke up 8 hours before. Asked her about food. Any airline. I never had this happen to me. It's embarrassing.
No, I get it's embarrassing, but apparently,
You were tagging me. You were enticing me to get off of the plane. And I did everything to make us walk. I woke up, everyone's looking at
listen,
me.
but we're trying to accommodate you. Okay, here, pick up your phone. Listen, we're trying to accommodate you. So listen, what's going to happen, brother. I want to avoid any embarrassments or any issues. The crew, the captain's the one that makes the final decision. Right now, for whatever reason, they're asking you to leave. We're going to rebook you on the next flight.
I don't want it.
Okay, well, this is what's going to happen.
As soon as I get off, you can do whatever you got to do.
We're going to have to deplane everybody on this plane, and then you're still going to get off.
That's fine.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I would be less a dickhead about what was
All right, so we're going to have to go through that process. Then we're going to ask you, okay? All right, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
Ever in my life get off the plane for you, specifically you. Maybe everybody else. I would get off the plane. It don't mean nothing to me. Ain't no way you can look at me. Ever.
Guys, just don't engage with them. Just don't engage with them.
You gonna wait 40 minutes and I'm gonna be on a private plane home. Good. Yeah. So fat. Yeah, I will. Get your ass off the plane for a second. Yeah, I bet. Enjoy the cheese board on the way home. Get your ugly ass. Don't mean nothing to me, bro. Got like up. I'm sorry. All you had to do was wake me up.
Having them go that way? Yeah, you guys.
And we got everybody off, okay? Don't forget your stuff up here.
All right. So I have a problem with that. Wait, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Can't unmute guests. They chose to mute themselves.
The police acted in an exemplary fashion here.
He was the asshole, Odell Beckham. Let me just recap.
What did they move him for?
he came on the plane, and he must have just passed out and went to sleep because apparently they say he came from a club. So you have to fasten your seatbelt, no matter who you are. They couldn't wake him. He didn't fasten his seatbelt. He wasn't compliant. They caused the cops to come on because you can't take off until everybody fasten their seatbelts, no matter who you are. So the cops come on, and I think at this point, the flight attendants is like, okay, we just don't want him on the flight because we constantly tried to wake him up and tell him to fasten it, and he was going in and out of consciousness, whatever. So then that's when the cops was like, listen, everyone's going to have to get off, and then you're going to have to get off, but you still have to get off anyway. He could have just got off the plane, but he said, that's fine. Let everybody get off the plane, then I'll get off. And then as people were proceeding to get off, he's calling the guy fat, that one particular guy. Dude, just fasten your fucking seatbelt.
Okay, now.
And if you didn't want to, get off the plane.
The deal is with FAA regulations, they can remove the guy from the plane. They may have to account for it later. I haven't seen anything. They make that report. But interestingly enough, the police behave in an exemplary fashion. They go and they read the riot act to the crew. Say, look, he's not drunk.
No, they said that he said he was tired because
he's tired. The bottom line is he hasn't done anything that we can remove him for. Now, if you want him off, you have the authority to eject him. And they just go there, and he basically says, all right, they want to eject me, and I don't know what happened before that. I'm playing this as a judge. Yeah. I didn't see what provoked that. I don't have any evidence.
Judge thing. It's not even about a judge thing. My point is his celebrity privilege, like you
yeah, well, I'm just
no. You are putting the flight other passengers in danger because you're just making an inconvenience for everybody for your.
Well, I mean, the point is that here we go. What they aren't articulating why they wanted him removed. See, the cops
he did not put his seatbelt on.
Like, you aren't giving us a reason.
No, they did. He did not put his seatbelt on.
Well, he's awake and putting it on now.
No, okay. This is the thing. When it wasn't one time, the flight attendant asked him several times, sir, we can't take off until you fasten your seatbelt, fasten your seatbelt.
Well, I didn't hear that.
That's what she said. Right. That's what, because
the point again is
this is I'm telling you the backstory. I'm telling you the backstory. So when they brought the cops onto the plane, they said it's up to you. If you want him removed, we will remove him. If you don't, and he fastens it, it's totally up to you. So they said at this point, we asked him a dozen times, we just want him to be removed. Because
okay, let me give you another side of this. What I'm thinking about, Alaskan Airlines. Alaskan Airlines feted me and my assistant, also my bodyguard at the time. They had us meet with their board of directors at Los Angeles International, flew us up to Seattle, Washington, and I sat next to the CEO for Alaskan Airlines. I was the keynote speaker for the American Airline Pilots Association at a banquet they were having. The next day, when we go back to the airport, Alaskan Airlines has a limo. The CEO is sitting in the back with us. We get into the airport. We go through and we get waved through security. The CEO for the company takes us to the gate and says, you don't need to do this. He ordered up a couple of bottles of champagne for us, good, and was directing them to be taken on and escorted us to the door of the damn airplane. Well,
but did you fasten your seatbelt?
No, hold on. The chief flight attendant had gotten ill, so somebody from Alabama took over. We just got through the door, escorted by the CEO. She says, what are y'all doing up in here? I said, well, we got escorted. I don't believe it. I said, well, ma'am. Well, where you think you're sitting? I said, well, our seats. This is first class. I said, that's the only way we travel. First class. Let me see your ticket. Now, I've never had anybody demanded to see my ticket once I got past the gate, ever. But she wanted to see it. We saw it. Well, you're just going to have to get back out of here. I said, your boss is standing right outside the doorway talking to the ground crew. Why don't you ask him? Well, then just sit down and be still. I said, okay. So it degenerated from that point to, excuse me, man, I got to get to the men's room. So I got up and somebody beat me to it. So I said, okay. I went and sat back down. And I was about to refasten my seatbelt. This fool said, you got to go stand back there in line and coach. I said, I don't have to pee anymore. I'm fastening my seatbelt. Get up and stand back there. I said, I can choose to occupy my seat. There's a problem. So she throws the regulations at me, big, thick thing. I said, I understand you have that. I just said, you seem to have a problem with me and the gentleman who is accompanying me. And it started off, it seems, when the CEO escorted us in there. And by the way, where are the champagne bottles? Huh? I said, I saw you. You've appropriated them for the crew. I'm reporting you when we get landing in LAX. That was for
Right. So what is your point?
us. So the point was, is she went through this nasty attitude, the whole thing. Now this got funny. When we got off the plane, we had already drafted a complaint to corporate headquarters about this treatment. They tried to cover it. So there was this fat, balding guy that turned out to be a sky marshal. So he walks up, you guys are fucking assholes. So the guy with me, who is a dangerous individual, said, you won't talk to this man like that, nor will you talk to me. I said, well, let me see if I can clear this up. So he got to acting the worst asshole. So I said, you know, you stepped over the line. I said, now let me tell you how this is going to work out. You're not going to win because how old are you? 36, 37? You're going to be seen attacking two senior citizens who will beat the shit out of you. And not shit's going to happen to us.
Were there any complaints filed? And what
Yeah,
happened?
we did. So they worked it out amicably.
So in other words, comparing your situation to Odell Beckham, it was just in reverse.
Yeah, in other words, what happened was just because some asshole on a flight crew says it doesn't mean it's any truer than elsewhere. And this heifer came up with this whole thing. And the CEO had to say, look, we won't discipline you, ma'am, but I escorted him on the airplane. So it ain't going to happen that way. You're trying to say they snuck on the airplane.
Right. So the difference is and I totally get what you're saying, but I'm tired of going around mulberry with these long stories. My point is with Odell Beckham, he did not deny that he was not asked. So it's not like he said I did put it on. No, he didn't, because he said I was asleep. But
he could have handled that better. But the point is obviously that rather effeminate flight attendant didn't like him. And
I think she was frustrated with his bullshit.
Yeah, well, I mean, but there was,
and you got to understand, a lot of these flight attendants, for the most part, they're dealing with a lot of assholes daily.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying there is an animus that I saw in the flight attendants. There's also, hold on. There's a thing with him too. Now, if you're going to travel, if anybody's watching this, I strongly suggest you don't travel looking like that, because you make yourself a target for some zealous somebody from a state you've never heard of, or maybe just fly over country, because you fit a stereotype. Now, so what? But you're being
All right.
Profile. Now, if you have on a suit and tie and somebody profiles you, they don't have a leg to stand on. If you dress like everybody else on the plane, fine. But this hip hop thing, walking in sag bag, you know, you got to have your hoodie
He had on a sweatsuit.
Come on.
I mean, he supposed to wear a suit on the plane?
The other thing, he could have handled it better.
That's the thing. I don't care what you have on. It's your attitude. It's your
attitude, but I don't.
Because if you had on a suit and you still behave like that, it's still bad.
There's another thing in here too that I fly a lot, and I've been picking this up. There is a certain crew, certain type. I hate to say it, step on somebody's feet. I don't give a damn, but they are emboldened. And they've been taking out their resentments on people that look like the antithesis of where they're coming from. So I'm looking at an effeminate male flight attendant and an obviously hostile feminist flight attendant. And they don't like dude who's in the hoodie coming across being gangster and telling them what they can do with themselves. And then the funny thing is, we didn't see him with his pants off. He had his pants on. Some allegation had been made on that. So I imagine what they were talking about is he was sagged and bagged. That's the way I interpreted that. So it was bad all the way around, but here is the punchline. Punchline is that in some places, some people have authority. And when they've got the legal authority to call the shot, and you have to talk about it later, you got to deal with it. Either get removed or comply.
Right. All right.
So that's where we are right there. This intolerance is built up.
All right. So I need to move on. Two last things. Quickly. And this could be quick because everybody is familiar with Dr. Martin Luther King. But this weekend, you know, on this upcoming Monday is the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. I believe his birthday is the 15th. And that is 13, 14, 15. I think that's Sunday, Friday. Yeah, that's Sunday. And his holiday observant day is Monday, right? So I just wanted you to touch on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
FBI organized a hit on him. They recruited the two-man hit team. They supplied the weapon. They supplied the ammunition and set things up. And they covered for what they did, and they have not yet been brought to justice.
I said his legacy, not
that's
what happened.
And what they did is, from what I saw, they were debating on whether he'd be more dangerous as a dead martyr, which he became, because at that point in time, we'd moved on to other things besides nonviolent civil rights. They were worried about him not revitalizing civil rights. They didn't care. They were worried about him galvanizing the anti-war movement and revitalizing labor. That's what they were afraid of. That's what the memoranda that are in the record show. Now, his legacy, fine young man, and he did some things to prick America's conscience. I also think in the same category, though he was not martyred, and I think they knew better at the time, was Frederick Douglass. And I'd like to see some recognition given to that man. Now, unlike King, who was nonviolent, Frederick Douglass helped organize the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Colored Infantry and had a lot to do with the passage of the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, did a lot of lobbying and diplomatic work in Europe to keep the Europeans from doing what the U.S. is doing in Ukraine. In other words, coming in on the rebel side of things or the other side of things. And he did a lot. He escaped from slavery. He was not a peaceful man. He did shoot his way out of a couple of bad situations, and he lost a son in the 54th. And he did a lot of courageous stuff. I'd like to see him honored.
Well, his birthday is not until February something.
I know, but the point is that we have some other people in here in our American history thing is we seize on the latest figurehead rather than dealing with essence. So in my opinion, King was important, but flat out, hands down, the black man in our history that probably did the most for black people as an individual, as an advocate, was Frederick Douglass. And
so you're saying that we should be honoring Frederick Douglass
we shall
the same as we honor Martin Luther King, if not more.
Yeah, we've got.
Do you think Frederick Douglass did more for Black America than
over a longer period of time? He lived to be an old man, and as I said, he actually did a hell of a lot to make the Civil War go as it is. He practically was the chief lobbyist for the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. He formulated a plan for the War Department to come up with colored volunteer units so black troops could fight to get their own freedom from slavery. By the end of the Civil War, thanks in large parts to his effort, 1/3 of the Union Army was black, and he was not nonviolent. He got in a few shootouts, and he violently got free from enslavement. I like that. Now, King, he tapped into America's conscience. But the point that Hoover, who seems to have been a black man passing for white, if I look at the Smithsonian American History channels and what I read historically now, had been a little bit more astute, he would have left him alone, and King probably would have been a footnote now, but he's got a holiday named after him because they martyred him. And therein is the conundrum. Politically, do you take somebody out and make them a dead martyr, or do you let them go on and become a footnote? Now, King did some good stuff, but I've never been a nonviolent person, so it was not something that I was particularly fond of. Mm-hmm. Neither was my old man.
So, okay, so basically, you basically just summed up Martin Luther King legacy, and you're saying that, yes, give this man some respect, but the person that we should be honoring at the high level is Frederick Douglass because he did more for Black America.
Yeah, and he was not a nonviolent man. And in my opinion, in my years of life, being peaceful and asking doesn't get you much of anything in the United States of America. Being able to deliver consequence does. And in my lifetime as a young adult, I wasn't into nonviolence. I was into something else entirely.
All right. Again.
While we whoopee.
You are running for mayor of Memphis.
JJB.
He needs your support, financial support.
Judge Joe Brown in 2023 for mayor of Memphis town. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. It belongs to you. It's not just a select hunting grounds for people to exploit. It's not just for the privileged few that have bought off a number of the people that you have elected to deliver services to you. It's not just about people getting wealthy off of your tax dollars. It's about all of us together. So it's time to move this place to the position it ought to occupy. It can be the greatest city in America by the end of this century if we come together and cooperate. Stop thinking about little crumbs and chump change because some fool who has sold you out for a little bit under the table that's not even pre-mixed You can get big money with big opportunity, and it's time to get yourself in a position to get big opportunity. And that means you have to get somebody who is out to protect your interest rather than live off of you.
Right.
Now, and I
Go to the
didn't.
website, sign up for the mailing list, and donate. You don't have to donate Cash App. There's a link for you to donate using your credit card. But if it's easy for you to use Cash App, please do so. $ Judge Joe Brown 2023. Thank you, Judge.
One other thing, there's a calendar on that is starting off this week, and it'll give you an idea what up and coming events are going to be and where. And we have a town hall meeting on the 19th. I suggest people attend, and it's got to do with stopping the violence. So come participate, see what you can do to help out where you are and make it a better, safer, more secure place.
And then also in the near future, we're going to start pushing, if people who live in the area who wants to volunteer, we'll let you know where you can sign up at. But that'll be in the near future, probably by the end of this month, but definitely the beginning of February for that information.
And there's a Cash App on there too, so check it out and contribute.
Exactly.
Somebody gave us, we've been getting varied contributions.
Weekly. Have you been getting contributions weekly?
Yeah, daily. Okay. One of them more interesting, one that was accompanied by a note, was for $3. He just said, this is all I can afford, but I want to do my part to help out.
Yeah. Listen, exactly.
3 and 3 is 9. 3 more is 12. You know, it started off with 3. And it's about getting yourself together too. So it's not for me, it's for you. You work through me. You know,
I want to.
For me is a vote for yourself. So it's a contribution.
I want to do. Eventually, we're going to do a fundraiser drive during the show, and I'm gonna have that for the live show as well. I'm gonna kind of flesh that out and put that together because people don't understand if 1,000 people cash that $5. What is that?
5,000 times 1,000 is $5,000.
That's 5,000. Yeah, it's $5,000. That's $5 from what I say 1,000 people. 1,000 people, right?
Yeah. What? 5 times 1,000 is 5,000.
5 times 1,000. Yes, 5,000. So it's 1,000 people which watch this show, donate $5. That's $5,000, right? So
that will help.
All right.
Getting the word out.
Thank you, Judge.
One of my opponents, interesting, a woman, if you look at.
No, we ain't talking about that right now. We got to close the show.
No.
We got to close the show.
Saying, to show you what we need, followthemoney.com. One of my female opponents has gotten $370-some thousand.
We don't care. Stop.
But it's from the wrong source.
I know, from the wrong source. We want the people.
I don't want big business. I don't want all of the vested interest. I want the people. So those $3, $4, $10, $20, $50, and $100 donations count. That means we can all keep our independence.
Right. You got to work on your timing for next show. We'll talk about that off the air. All right. Thank you, Judge.
Oh, well, I didn't know we were only going to do 1 hour.
On Twitter. No, this actually. We'll talk off the air. We'll see you guys Monday on Twitter, Twitter Space, Monday evening, The Real Dana #7, and Judge Joe Brown TV at Twitter. Bye. Have a good day.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.